Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, This Story Ain't Over. So a few weeks ago, I decided to go through all of my shelves and pull down all the books that I didn't think I was going to read anytime soon, that I didn't really want on my shelves anymore, and that had just lost their luster for me. Either they were books that I had read and didn't like, or they were books that I had bought a really long time ago or that I had received from a publisher. Most of these are from publishers, and that I didn't really want to read, I wasn't really interested in anymore, and they were just taking up space on my bookshelves. I have 4 ginormous bookshelves in my room, and then I have a little skinny one on the other side of my room, and they are all completely full. I stack things on top of each other, I double stack, like there is not enough room on there, and there are maybe 60 to 100 books here in front of me on the floor that I'm going to be unhauling today. I haven't counted exactly, so we'll count as we go, but I thought I would make this a little bit interesting because I'm not going to really be going through like what each of these books is about because I don't think it's really necessary, but I'll tell you why I'm unhauling it. And while I'm doing that, I thought it'd be fun to answer some questions about me that you guys have asked. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a Q&A. So for every 10 books that I unhaul, I'll answer one question from one of you from my Instagram. But with all that said, before we get into the books that I'm going to be unhauling today, I did want to talk a little bit about our sponsor of today's video, which is Book of the Month. So Book of the Month has been a longtime sponsor of mine. I love talking about them because they're such a great service. And recently they also launched a podcast called Virtual Book Tour, which I think is fantastic and has some conversations with authors of the books that are featured in Book of the Month. So Book of the Month, for those of you who don't know, is an online book service for readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and help readers like you and me find new books that they're gonna love. The way it works is that their team vets hundreds of books that are coming out each month, and from there they curate a fantastic list of 5 to 7 books that you can pick from and choose to get in your Book of the Month box for that month. All the books are either new or early release titles, and it helps you spend less time scrolling and searching for your next favorite read and just reading. One of my favorite things about Book of the Month, and which I appreciate in any service that does this, is their wonderful skip policy. So if ever you don't like the selections that they've curated, you can just skip that month and continue your subscription later on. Book of the Month also has one of the best prices for new release hardcover books. And today, if you sign up for Book of the Month and use my code STORY using the link down below, you can grab your first Book of the Month box for only $9.99. This is a US only service, unfortunately, so just keep that in mind. But definitely go grab that deal, get a new book for only $9.99. So for August, I decided to grab 2 of Book of the Month's curated selections. So the first one is Bronze Drum by Phong Nguyen, and this one seems to be a really interesting true story set in ancient Vietnam following 2 sisters, and it involves a military aspect to the story. And I think it's gonna be really, really interesting and just like a heartbreaking story of sisters, so I'm excited for that. And then the other book that I decided to pick up is a thriller, and that is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I have gotten one of Alice Feeney's other books in Book of the Month before, so I do really want to pick up that one and this one as well. I've been meaning to get into more thrillers, and I've heard that her books are quite amazing. As I said before, Book of the Month has 5 to 7 curated selections each month, so aside from the 2 that I just mentioned today, you can go to their website and check out what the other selections are and grab your first Book of the Month box for only $9.99 using the link in my description and my code STORY. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into my unhaul. This is gonna go in no particular order, but I'm gonna keep a counter on the screen in the corner so that we can count how many books I'm getting rid of. But I do want to preface all this by saying that a lot of these were books that I did not buy myself. They were sent to me in a book box or by publishers, and I've just lost interest in them, and I don't want to, keep them in my collection. And I am of the mind that like I don't really like keeping books if I don't see a value in having them, like if I don't think I'm gonna reread them again, or if I'm not gonna like peruse them later on, and if I didn't really love them, I don't really see a reason to keep them. So I feel like it's just better to find them a new home. So these books are not going to waste. They will either go to a used bookstore or they'll get donated to a school library. So don't think of this as like me just being frivolous with my books. I do believe in like putting them to a better use than just gathering dust in my house. So yeah, that's what I'm feeling. With all those things said, let's get into this. Alrighty, first up, I have the Serpent and Dove trilogy. I have read Serpent and Dove. I have not read the other 2 books. I did enjoy this one, but I don't see myself continuing with the series anytime soon or at any point, really. I'm going to be saying this multiple times in this video, and I've said it in previous videos as well, but I do feel like my reading taste has changed a lot over the past year. I don't gravitate towards YA books as much anymore, especially YA fantasy. I think some YA contemporaries I still really enjoy, but I think some YA fantasies I'm just not clicking with anymore. I feel like these days I'm just more interested in like literary fiction, historical fictions, like adult fiction, and just books with bigger themes and like bigger casts as well. So yeah, my reading taste has definitely like taken a really big turn. I still love YA. A lot of my favorite books are still YA, but I just don't feel like I am as interested in a lot of the newer YA coming out. Not because they're bad in and of themselves, but just because like I personally am not in the point in my life where I'm enjoying YA as much, and I just have different things I want to read about. So yeah, I'm saying this at the front of the video so that you like know that is the main reason for a lot of the unhauls today. I'm just not really in the mood for YA anymore, and I just don't want these books to like collect dust on my shelves. I would rather them go to like a teen who will really enjoy them and love them and read them voraciously like I did when I was a teen and like even a few years ago. So yeah, Serpent and Dove series is going. This is 3 books. I did really enjoy the first one though, so like while I'm semi-curious to see where it goes in the next books, I don't think it's going to change my life, and I don't think I am actually going to get around to these books like within the next year. So I feel like that's the benchmark. If I don't think I would pick these up in the next year, then they don't deserve to be on my shelves. So that's 3 books. Next, I have 3 copies of the same book that I didn't actually enjoy all that much. I was really hyped for it, but didn't end up liking it. It was by an author that I really liked, and I got 2 of these copies in different book boxes, and then one of them was sent to me by the publisher, so I didn't buy any of these. Again, a lot of these were not books that I spent money on, so I don't feel like as butthurt about, you know, giving them away. But those 3 copies are of the book Allure. So this is by Alexandra Bracken, and this came out I think in 2020, I want to say. But yeah, it's like Greek mythology, fantasy, urban fantasy. It's an interesting concept. I just don't think I really enjoyed the execution. So that's sort of why I'm getting rid of it. I don't think I'll ever reread it. And yeah, I just like someone else to have this and read this. So 3 different people can enjoy Lore by Alexandra Bracken. All right, the next one might be a spicy one, but I feel like a lot of people don't like this book on BookTube, and that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This copy in specific I got in a book box. I don't remember which one, but I had also like bought a copy of this book previously, and I think I've already unhauled it. But yeah, I like fell into the hype of this on TikTok and was like, oh my god, I want to read this. And then I like started it and basically hated everything about it. I hated the writing style, and it reminded me a lot of like Throne of Glass and Sarah J Maas books, which I don't really like. I have a whole video on like popular books I don't like anymore. You can go watch that video, but I talk about Sarah J Maas in that video. So yeah, this one gave me a lot of those vibes, and I just felt like it was not the book for me. And maybe like 5-10 years ago I would have loved it as a teenager, but not anymore at all. So yeah, this is like a special edition that I'm like kind of sad that, you know, I don't like this book, because it would be really cool to just like have this for a book that I really love, but I don't love this one, so we're getting rid of it so that some other person can enjoy this and love this. This next one is a random fantasy that was sent to me by a publisher, and that is Cold, the Night, Fast the Wolves by Meg Long. This one, honestly, I just don't think I'll enjoy. It is a YA fantasy, and it involves wolves, and for some reason, I have a weird thing about not liking wolves in books. I think they are kind of boring animals, and whenever there is a book with like wolves as a theme, I just like immediately am turned off from it. I don't know why. I think it might be based off of Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater, which was like a book that came out when I was a teen, and I remember reading it and like thinking it was awful. So I feel like that's where this stems from, the idea of wolves. So yeah, whenever there's a wolf mentioned in a YA fantasy, I'm like, I don't want to read this. Next, I have another controversial one, and that is Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell. I personally loved Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, which is the book that started this whole Simon Snow nonsense, because she has like a fake book series that the main character in Fangirl writes fanfiction about, and that is the Simon Snow series. And then she ended up writing like Simon Snow as her own fantasy book, and then this is a sequel, I think, or the 3rd book, I can't remember, but I absolutely hated the first one. It was called Carry On, I think, so I never wanted to continue with that series, but the publisher sent me this book without asking, so here we are. I have a copy of it, and I don't want to read it, so I'm getting rid of it. You will see that as a running theme, that publishers just send me books without telling me, and then I'm left with just a bunch of shit in my house. So like those past 2 books were sent to me without anyone telling me. It's like you give them your address once and then they're like, okay, I'll just send you whatever book I want to promote. Next I have another trilogy, YA trilogy, and this one was sent to me by the publisher. And I think I did request this series because I had heard other book influencers talk about this one and say that they really enjoyed it. But personally, where I am now in my life, I don't think I'll end up wanting to read this or enjoy it all that much. So I think it's just better to give it to someone who will. And that is the Ace of Spades series by Amanda Foody. I don't know too much about this. I think it's a YA fantasy. It involves this like theme of cards and suits and shit. I don't know much else. I've heard like pretty good things about this. But yeah, I'm not interested in it at this point, and I don't think I'll really enjoy it. So I'm gonna give it away. Next, I have Truth Witch by Susan Dennard, and I actually really love Susan Dennard as a author, as a person. I have read her Something Strange and Deadly YA trilogy, which is actually really fantastic. I really loved it when I read it, I think 3 to 4 years ago. But this one is the first book in her next series, and it involves witches. I've tried to get into this multiple times and didn't really feel it. And I bought it so long ago, and at the time I was like excited for it, but now not so much. And I just feel like I'm never gonna get around to reading this or like the later books in the series, so I don't see a point in hanging on to it. Next, I have a couple books from book boxes that I honestly just know nothing about, so I don't really feel like keeping them. I have In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland, and then I have The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. Yeah, these are just YA fantasies. I don't know too much about them. I don't think I'm gonna really love them. I haven't heard anyone like shouting from the rooftops about these books, so I think it's just better to give them away. I've also got These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. This was another one in a book box. Don't know too much about it. It's another YA fantasy. Again, not feeling this genre, so it's gonna go. Same thing can be said of these next 3 books. So this Golden Flame by Emily Victoria, The Bright and Pale by Jessa Rubinkowski, and we've also got Master of One by Jada Jones and Danny Bennett. This one I was slightly interested in because it's got like a big cast and sort of a heist element and some queer characters, I think. But aside from that, I don't know too much about it. But again, like, I have 0 patience and 0 willpower to like start a YA fantasy series and be invested and continue on. There's actually a few from like the past 2 years that like I've started, like Serpent and Dove, where I read the first one, really enjoyed it, but I just like have not had the willpower to continue with the rest of the series. So I don't see the point in like starting more and just only reading the first one. You know what I mean? I'm just not super interested in any of these, so they're gonna go. And I know some of you are thinking, why did you take on these like book boxes if you weren't gonna like any of the books? This is my reasoning. I honestly loved some of the books that these book boxes had at the beginning, but at some point I took on too many book boxes. Like I had Owl Crate, Fairy Loot, Illuma Crate, and the taste of these certain book boxes are very different. I feel like Owl Crate was a little bit more diverse, whereas Fairy Loot and Illuma Crate tended to lean towards these very like traditional YA fantasies written by white authors, and I don't really vibe with that. I like more diverse fantasies. I like it when they're pushing boundaries. And so those were usually the books that I enjoyed more. Whereas like these last 5 that I just hauled, like they just feel like iterations of each other. Like I don't feel like they're doing anything new. So that's part of the reason why I'm not super interested in them. But yeah, like I did stop doing those unboxings. I did stop receiving those boxes because I was feeling this feeling that like all the books were the same. I was getting the same items. So I decided to cut that out of my life, and now I'm cutting these books out of my life. This is the reality. I think at the beginning of doing YouTube, I wanted to really get every opportunity that I could, but now we're in a place where we're like, okay, we can say no. I hope you're enjoying this casual tone of me. I also realized I was supposed to answer a question like 10 books ago. I think we're on 1, 2, 3. We are at 19 books, so I'm gonna unhaul 1 more book and then I'll answer 2 questions. Okay, I'm gonna unhaul Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. This one might be controversial. I know a lot of people love this one. I did read this for Epic Book Racks, my series on the Epic Reads channel. They are the ones that sent this to me. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't like the best YA contemporary that I've read, so yeah. I like barely remember what happens in it, so I think that's just like an indicator of my feelings about it. I don't think it was life-changing. It was a good book, but I don't remember anything about it, and I don't see the need to keep the book when someone else can read it and enjoy it. Alrighty, that's 20 books. Let's answer 2 questions. Someone asked, how has life been? Like, genuinely, I appreciate you asking how my life has been. It's been good. It's been busy. I've had a really busy summer. I've had quite a few like family events and weddings and things. I've had a couple trips that I've gone on. I went to Disney World, which was a lot of fun. And I also had COVID, which was not fun. And then I've just been like busy with work and just like, you know, trying to get back into YouTube after my little break that I had and trying to be like productive without feeling drained out. I think that is the new balance that I'm trying to find, and it's going well, I think. I think I'm starting to find a rhythm with, you know, this new job I'm in and the busyness levels and just like the things I want to do with my life. I've been trying to be a little bit more healthy and active, which is really working for me, and it's really helping with like my mental health as well. And overall, I'm doing pretty good. I think at the beginning of this year, I wasn't doing super great. I wasn't in a great mental space, and I think the recent changes that I've made in my life have really helped out, and so I'm doing a lot better. And I do think like having things open up and being able to go out more and like see more friends and things has really helped. I feel like I've become a lot more social creature over the past few years, and I've become a lot more extroverted, so I do need like social interaction to feel good. But I think we're working through it and we're making things happen, and I'm just feeling good overall. Thank you for asking. I hope all of you are doing well and, you know, chugging along. Always remember that, you know, the hard times that you're going through will not last forever, and you're doing great and you're doing awesome, and I appreciate you, and I hope you're doing okay. All right, question number 2. What's your go-to coffee order? Okay, I have a few. So if I'm gonna get a hot drink from Starbucks, it's usually a grande caramel macchiato with extra caramel drizzle and almond milk because I can't have dairy. And then if I'm gonna get a cold drink and I need some coffee, it's usually the grande brown sugar oat shaken espresso, which I recently discovered and really like. And then if I'm not really feeling caffeine, I usually do an iced matcha tea latte with almond milk and less ice and extra matcha and extra syrup. I know that's really specific, but it's like really nice, especially in the summer. I used to like get those all the time and write, and it was just like the best fuel. Alrighty, that's 2 questions. Let's unhaul 10 more books. I'm gonna actually count this time, I promise. Next I have When You Get the Chance by Emma Lord. This was again sent to me by the publisher without them asking. I have zero idea what it's about. It's a YA contemporary. I feel like the YA contemporaries that I usually gravitate towards have like hard-hitting themes or are just really uplifting, wonderful stories of BIPOC characters just doing great things, or like LGBTQIA characters doing great things and being awesome and just living their lives. So yeah, this is none of those things, so I don't really feel like I'm gonna be interested in it, and that's how I'm feeling. The next book I've actually read, and that is If You're Out There by Katie Lautzenheiser. This one was actually pretty good. It was a fun YA contemporary slight mystery. I don't remember too much about it, but it was like a mid-level read, like enjoyable, not life-changing. Don't remember too much about it, so I don't see the need to keep it. Next, I have a couple books in a YA fantasy duology or trilogy. I don't actually know. So that is All Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace, and then the sequel, All the Tides of Fate. I think these were in an Owl Crate box, so they were sent to me by Owl Crate. Yeah, I was initially interested in these because it's got like pirates in it and involves mermaids and stowaways and a princess and all of that. It seems really cool. I think maybe if I had picked it up a few years ago, I might have been like really excited and enjoyed it a lot. But at this point in my life, I don't think I'm gonna pick it up anytime soon, definitely not in the next year. So if I'm not gonna do that, I feel like there's no point in keeping it on my shelves. Next I have Thorn by Intizar Kanani, and this one I believe is a retelling of some fairy tale. I don't remember which one. This one I did start and I was enjoying it, but like I just lost interest at some point and then never got around to finishing it. I don't see myself picking this up again in the next year, so I don't see the point in keeping it, but yeah, I don't remember even what this was about, so I just like don't see the point in keeping it. Next I have Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. This one I actually really enjoyed, and I actually have another copy of it, so this is just a extra copy that I'm getting rid of. I did enjoy this book. It does have a sequel that I do hope to pick up sometime soon because this book did intrigue me and I did enjoy it. But yeah, I don't need 2 copies of it, so this can go to someone else. Next I have Witches Steeped in Gold by Shannon Smart. This is actually a duplicate copy I have. Not like exactly the same copy. I have like a special edition from a book box. So I'm gonna keep that in case I want to read this book. I don't think I'm gonna pick it up anytime soon, but I do want to keep it for the option to read it in the further future, if that makes sense. I have heard some great things about this, but I don't see the point in keeping a double copy, so this can go to someone who will pick it up soon. Next, I'm getting rid of The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I have tried to read this multiple times. I got like halfway through it and I just wasn't really feeling it for some reason. And again, I think this is just a function of me not really enjoying YA fantasy anymore. But I did pick this up like I think last year. Yeah, it just didn't grip me the way I was hoping to. I know a lot of people love this one though, but yeah, it's just like a personal preference. Just wasn't feeling it, so I think this can go to someone who will love it. Sorry things look different. I had to change my battery, but next I have another copy of The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. This was also sent to me by a publisher, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna get rid of this as well. And then I've got Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. This one I was slightly interested in, but I don't actually remember what it was about. It's a YA fantasy. I think I got it in a book box as well. And yeah, just again, I'm not interested anymore, so I'm just gonna let someone else read this and enjoy this. Okay, I think that was 10 books, so I'm gonna answer another question from you guys on Instagram. So someone is asking, have you ever thought about writing your own book? What themes would it have? So yes, I have definitely thought about writing my own book. It has been a long time dream for me. I think it's just a matter of like wanting to get the right story out and like feel really, really proud of it. So that's part of the reason why I haven't like finished one or like put out a book or tried to get published, that kind of thing. It's because like I'm just trying to work on the best story that I can. But yeah, the themes that I would have, I don't know. I feel like it depends on the book. The one I'm currently working on is sort of a sci-fi. So it has a lot of themes that you see in a lot of sci-fi, the trajectory of humanity and how technology has affected us. But it also has some themes of heroism and, you know, social class, of a lot of other things. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I am working on it right now. I know I have given writing updates on my channel before, but I haven't been really consistent with them. And I feel like partly that's because writing has been a bit of an on and off relationship for me. There have been times in my life where I've written a lot and other times where I've written like barely a word. And a lot of that has to do with what's going on in my life at the moment. So this year I went through a lot of stuff at the beginning of this year, especially with like leaving my old job. So there was just a lot of stress related to that. And so I haven't been able to write a lot. And I think this point in the year, I'm just trying to figure things out so I can get to the point where I have a daily routine where I have the time to write every day and like really get into a story. So that's what I'm working towards. So I'm hoping that by the end of this year, I can finish something and that I can try to start getting published next year. But these are just big high hopes that I have. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I have hopes, but I don't want to commit to saying that these things are going to happen. I just want to see how things go. Alrighty, next I have a slightly controversial one, and that is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This one I honestly wasn't interested in at all, and then I ended up buying a copy because at the time my Patreon was going on and I had planned to potentially do this as our book club pick, but then we ended up picking a different book and I ended up closing out my Patreon as well. I stopped doing Patreon because I just couldn't handle the time commitment, I guess. And so I was just left with this book, and I honestly wasn't interested in this from the beginning. And then I heard like so many more reviews of people who hated this, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not gonna like this. So yeah, that's why I'm just unhauling it, because there's literally no point in me keeping it, because I'm like 90% sure I'm not gonna enjoy it. And I know that seems kind of harsh, but I feel like I am pretty precious with my time. I only have so many years on this earth and so many hours to read on this earth, and I feel like I want to be spending my time on books that I think I'm gonna genuinely love, and I feel like I don't want to spend my time like starting books and DNFing them and all of that. Next I have The Cousins by Karen M. McManus. This was sent to me in a book box as well. I know she's a pretty popular YA thriller author. I'm not really interested in YA thrillers, to be honest, and I feel like I have heard not great things about this particular book by this author, so I don't see a point in keeping it. Next, I have a book that I've tried to finish so many times. I started it so many years ago and never got around to completing it because honestly, it just did not hold my interest. And that book is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I know so many people love this book. It's like their favorite thing ever, but it is one of those books that is just like all vibes, no plot. And I am very much a plot-driven reader. So yeah, this just did not vibe with me. I was not feeling it. I wanted so much more out of this concept, and I don't see myself finishing it ever, so I'm just gonna let this one go. Next, I have a book that I bought on a whim quite a few years ago, and that is A Little Something Different by Sandy Hall. What I remember of this is that it's like a love story told from like different perspectives and like also from like objects that are around the characters, I think. I don't remember much else about this, but I'm not super interested in this anymore. It is a YA romance, and yeah, I'm just not feeling it. Next, I've got a book that I have read, and that is I'll Give You the Sun by Jananie Nelson. I read this for my Epic Book Recs series on the Epic Reads channel, and I did enjoy it, but I didn't think it was amazing like everyone had been saying. And yeah, I just didn't really fall in love with it. I just thought it was sort of mediocre, and yeah, I don't feel the need to hang on to it. Next, I have a book that was sent to me by the publisher without asking. That is The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold. It seems like a YA thriller. I'm not really big into YA thrillers, and yeah, wasn't really interested in it to begin with. Next, I have a YA thriller that I did want to read, that I was interested in, and I tried so many times to get into this book and I just wasn't feeling it. And that is How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao. This one I'm like slightly on the fence about unhauling, but I honestly don't think I'm going to read it anytime soon. If anything, I want like an adult version of this to read, and I've heard mixed things about this, so I'm just gonna let it go and let someone else enjoy it. Next, I have a YA contemporary that I don't think I'll pick up anytime soon, and that is Always Never Yours by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. I think I got this from the publisher, but this one I was interested in because it's a co-writing author duo, and I thought that that was super interesting. But yeah, I think I tried to get into this one and wasn't really feeling it. I have read recently an adult book by these authors, an adult romance, and I loved it. And I think it was really well done, but I don't think I will enjoy a YA romance version, so that's why I'm just gonna let this go. All right, next I have Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. This one I tried so hard to get into, but I honestly just wasn't feeling the voice, and I wasn't feeling it overall. I feel like it was just really slow for me. I feel like the concept was super cool though. It involves like the whole nine-tailed fox mythology, and it involves a female nine-tailed fox demon, and she's like stealing the hearts of men, or like eating the hearts of men, something like that, and I thought it was super cool. But yeah, I just couldn't get into the story and like the way it was written, so I don't think I'll ever read this. And then it did have a companion novel that also deals with like some sort of mythology called Vicious Spirits, and I bought this on a whim around the time that I had gotten this, and didn't get into this, so I don't feel like I'll get into this if I wasn't vibing with the writing style, so I'm just gonna let both of these go. Alrighty, that's 10 books, so I'm gonna answer another question. So someone said, congrats on your growth. What's a new goal now that you've unlocked so many amazing opportunities? I really appreciate that, thank you. I think I've gotten to do some really cool things, and I'm really proud of, you know, where I've come with my channel and, you know, life in general. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's so many things I wanna do, I wanna see happen. I wanna do more with the book club, my Reading Color book club, where we read books by BIPOC authors each month. I want to do more with that. I maybe want to do merch at some point in the future for the channel, for the book club. And I also, again, want to get into writing again, and I want to see some sort of success with that. So I feel like those are the thoughts that I'm having right now, and I just want to get like more consistent with the channel again as well. Alrighty, next I have a trilogy of books by an author I absolutely love, but I honestly don't think I'll ever read these. And those books are the Young Elites trilogy by Marie Lu. For those of you who have been following my channel for a while now, you know that Marie Lu is one of my favorite authors ever. I basically love everything that she writes, but this series is the one set of books by her that I've never been able to get into or really love, and I know a lot of people actually really love this series. I have read the first book, The Young Elites, and I read it back when I was in high school, so this is a really long time ago, and I did enjoy it, but it didn't like blow me away the way her other books have. And then I just never got around to reading the other books, and I just don't see myself reading this anymore. Like, I don't see myself rereading the first one to read the next ones, and I just feel like someone else will enjoy these books. I think I can just love Marie Lu's books, like the ones that I've read, and be content with that. I don't think I need to read all of her catalog. I also feel like it depends on her books. I think some of them I have enjoyed more than others, and I feel like this one and also the Sky Hunter series are ones that I have enjoyed a little less than, say, Legend or Warcross. Next, I have the first book in a series that I know I will never read, and that book is Shatter Me by Tara Mafi. For those of you who have been following my channel for a while, you know that Tara Mafi is one of my favorite authors, but I specifically only really love her contemporaries. And recently I actually read her most recent YA fantasy, and y'all, it was not for me. And I feel like if I ever picked up this one, I would not enjoy it. This is the first series that she ever put out, and it's a YA dystopian series, so that already has me turned off. But yeah, I just don't think I'll ever enjoy this. I know a lot of people love it though, and part of me wishes I could have been part of the fandom like way back when it happened, but this one just never clicked with me. I did try reading this actually when I was in high school. Like I got a copy from the library and couldn't get into it. And then this copy I actually got from the publisher, I think last year or something, but yeah, I couldn't get into it. So here we are. I think this is better off with someone else who's gonna enjoy this series, a teen who's gonna love it, but it's just not for me. This next one is also probably gonna be controversial because I feel like a lot of people love this series, but I've tried to get into it, wasn't really feeling it, and I think at this point in my life, I'm just not gonna really fall in love with it, so I think it's better off going to a new home, and those books are Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, and then the sequel, Children of Virtue and Vengeance. I think I actually bought these way back when, but it's been like so many years since these books came out, and I think she's still working on the last one. And honestly, I just don't see myself reading these anytime soon, and I think it's just like better off going to someone who's gonna read them, I think. Next, I have a couple books sent to me by the publisher, and I don't think I'm gonna get to them. But those books are Lobizona and Cazadora. These ones are YA fantasies. I think they involve werewolves, I wanna say. Not super sure. I don't know too much about these. I've heard pretty good things about these, but again, I don't see myself picking these up anytime soon, so I don't see the reason in like holding on to them. Next, I have 2 copies of the same book that were sent to me in book boxes, and those are Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. These are actually gorgeous copies, but these ones are, I think, a standalone fantasy, or maybe it's the first book in a fantasy series. But Stephanie Garber, I think, is the author of Caraval, which is a series that I never got into. And I feel like I'm just like past the point of feeling the hype of like YA fantasy series, and I'm just like not super interested in them. So again, this is like the same thing I've been repeating over and over again. I just don't feel like I'm gonna like this or enjoy this at this point in my life, so I'm gonna let it go. I do want to say at this point that like if you think there's a book on this list that I've unhauled that you're like, Jananie, I really think you'll genuinely enjoy this, because based off your reading taste, I think although you are not in the mood for YA fantasy, I feel like this one in particular might actually pique your interest and you might actually really love. If you think these thoughts, feel free to make your case in the comments. Let me know if there's like a book on this unhaul that you think like, you know, Jananie, I think you need to give this a second chance. Go for it. Give me your case, state your, you know, arguments, and we'll see how it goes. I am not gonna get rid of these like right this second after filming this video. I'm probably gonna get rid of them in like a couple weeks from now. So you have time to make your case. Okay, that was another 10 books. We are at like, I think 50 books. This is insane, but we're gonna answer another question. So someone asked, any new favorite tropes that you have read in books recently? This is a great question, and I feel like I don't have specific tropes necessarily, but I feel like I've been enjoying certain genres more. So I've been enjoying like literary and like historical fiction, and a lot of books that just deal with more like human themes, I guess. I've been reading a lot less fantasy, which I find interesting, which I never expected myself to do. I grew up being a major fantasy reader, and that's what I've gravitated towards most. But yeah, I think it's just interesting seeing how my reading tastes have changed. One trope that I am liking, or not necessarily trope, but like theme I've been liking, is complicated marriages. Reading about those are so fascinating to me personally, I think, especially recently. I recently read a book that I think is gonna come out in my next reading experiment video, so I don't want to spoil anything for that video, but it involves a complicated marriage, and it was the most fascinating thing to read about, and I just thought it was so cool. So like, this is what I mean by me gravitating towards more adult books now. Like, you wouldn't have a complicated marriage in a YA book, which is why like I'm just not feeling YA books as much anymore. Okay, next I have a couple books that I bought on like a bargain sale, but I think I tried to get into them and couldn't do it. So those books are The Dark Days Club and The Dark Days Pact by Alison Goodman, so the first book and the sequel. I think I picked these up because I'd read another series by Alison Goodman. I think it was called Eon, and I thought it was really good back when I read it like in high school, but now I don't really remember too much about them, but I do remember that she was a white woman writing about like Chinese characters, so I thought that was weird. This series is like set in Victorian era with like paranormal urban fantasy type vibes, so I thought I would enjoy it, but I honestly tried to read it and couldn't get into it for the life of me. It just like was really slow and I wasn't feeling it. And yeah, I loved the idea of it and I wanted it to work out, but I just couldn't get into it. So we're getting rid of these. Next I have Kingdom of Souls by Raina Barron. This one I did actually start and get like halfway through. And honestly, I got halfway through. I was sort of enjoying it, but I still found it like not my favorite thing. I think this one was a YA fantasy that was slightly on the horror side, I think, and it got a little disturbing, which I found super interesting. I think like if I had been a different person, I would really enjoy this, but I just wasn't feeling it as much as I was hoping to, and I didn't find myself wanting to continue with the book and like gravitating towards it. So yeah, this one was like a DNF for me, and I don't see myself finishing it anytime soon or picking up the next book, so we're gonna let it go. Okay, next I have a book that I tried so hard to get into, to love, to be a part of the fandom. I think this author is fantastic. They are a lovely person. I love the fandom for this book series, and I just really wanted to love it, and I just couldn't do it. And now I've reached this point where I'm not really into YA fantasy anymore. So that book is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. I know so many people who love this book, but yeah, I just couldn't get into it, and I'm not really feeling the YA fantasy vibes anymore, and so I think it's just time to let this one go. Like, I've tried to read this book like once every year for like the past 5 years, and nothing's happened. So here we are. Next, I have a book that was sent to me by a publisher. I don't think I'll really pick it up anytime soon. That is Sunny's Song Will Never Be Famous by Suzanne Park. This is a YA contemporary involving like a digital detox camp. I think it's a cute concept, but I'm just not really in the mood for cutesy YA contemporaries. If I am gonna pick any up, I think I am gonna pick up the ones that have like hard-hitting themes. So yeah, this is just not what I'm really feeling right now, and I don't think I'll pick it up anytime soon. Next, I have a book that I just like bought on a whim, and now I don't think I'll ever read it, and that is Poemasia by Lang Leave. I know this author has some really amazing poetry. I've read some of her poetry and it's really nice, but this was like a novel, I think, about a poet. And I was like, oh, this seems interesting. And I kind of bought it on a whim back when I had like 30% off discount when I worked at Chapters. And now I'm just not really feeling it. I don't think I'll ever pick it up, so we're gonna let it go. Next, I have Furthermore by Tara Mafi. So I mentioned earlier, Tara Mafi is one of my favorite authors, but I only really love her contemporaries. And this is actually her middle grade fantasy, which I bought when it came out and I wanted to read it, but I never actually got around to picking it up. And I also feel like, although I know a lot of people who read middle grades as adults and really enjoy them, I find that I am not that person for some reason. I really want to love them, but I just don't find myself really getting into them. Unless it's one that like I read as a middle grade myself and I'm just like rereading for nostalgia, I'm just not really able to get into them otherwise. Next, I have another book that was sent to me by the publisher without them asking me, and that is You Have a Match by Emma Lord. This is a YA contemporary set at a summer camp involving sisters, I think. Not really something I'm looking for right now, so we're gonna let this go. Next, I have a book by an author I really love that I actually read and I did not enjoy, so we're gonna let this one go. And that is Of Curses and Kisses by Sandhya Menon. Those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, you know I love Sandhya Menon's contemporaries, especially like her When Dimple Met Rishi book, Something About Sweetie, and From Twinkle with Love. Like, I love those books. They feature South Asian main characters and just like having fun and, you know, having rom-com-y romances. This book though, I had super high expectations for because it was like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it just did not deliver on the vibes that I wanted, and I honestly found it kind of weirdly written. And it was different from her other books because it involved, or it seemed like it was going to involve, a fantasy element, and then it didn't really, and it was just strange to me. I just didn't enjoy it. So yeah, I don't see a point in holding on to it, so we're gonna get rid of it. Next, I have a book that I picked up because I heard some really great things about it, but I tried to get into it and couldn't do it. And that book is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. Honestly, I heard so many people rave about this one, but I just wasn't feeling it. I couldn't really get into it. Granted, I didn't get very far into it, so maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I just need to go further in. Let me know if you think so, but for now, I'm probably gonna get rid of this. It is a horror set in like a historical fantasy world, involves witches, and that's about all I know. All I remember also. Alrighty, that was another 10 books, and that is the basic end of this unhaul. I have a few more books, but I'm on the fence about them, so I'm gonna leave them out of this video for now, and maybe they'll show up in the next unhaul. So the final question that I'm going to answer is, how do you manage YouTube, work, book club, and personal life at the same time? I feel like I get this question all the time, and I feel like it's a good question. I feel like I have become the person who sort of plans out their life to the minute, basically, these days. I always have my calendar up to date. I'm always putting both like you know, YouTube related and work related stuff in there, but also like social engagements. So if I have like a party to go to, or like someone to hang out with, or someone to go to lunch with, like I put that in my calendar so that I know and I do not forget, and so I can plan the rest of my life around it. So like if I need a video to go up like next Saturday and I have like 3 books that I need to read before then, but I also need to film that video, but I also have like 3 different dinners to go to, or like people to hang out with or whatever. Like I plan my life around all of these different things. So it's really hard, and I feel like I'm always busy and it's very tiring, and I have to like get up really early on the weekends to film and that kind of thing, but we make it work. But yeah, I use a lot of like planning apps basically. So like my calendar, I have a to-do list app where I just like put in little tasks I need to do so that I never forget when I need to do something. And then I also use Notion to organize my videos and like my calendar videos and like what I need to read next and that kind of thing. So it's just like a careful balance of like digital systems that help me keep my life together, basically. But that is basically my answer for that question, and that is the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I feel like this video was quite repetitive in the sense that I was unhauling a lot of books that were very similar to each other, and I had similar reasons for unhauling them. But we are just in a point in my life where my reading tastes have changed so drastically that I just don't see the point in hanging on to these books anymore. Our total has come to 60 books. So I answered 6 questions there. And yeah, I feel like that's a lot of books. I do have some more lingering books around in my room that I am going to give a second chance, or I'm going to take some more time to think about. So before I officially unhaul them in a video, I'm going to think about it a little bit. So you might see them in another video. But yeah, I think I have like maybe 20 to 30 more books that I'm like, maybe I'll get rid of these at some point. So yeah, there's still more unhauling to do. With all that said, I feel pretty good about this purge. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you want to get regular updates on my reading and what I'm doing on the regular, go check out my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and TikTok in the description down below. And I will see you in my next video. So please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!